Gary Stevenson is wrong.
I think the way we need to change our world is to tax the richest people in society much more.
Gary Stevenson is wrong about taxing the rich more to solve inequality. Gary Stevenson argues that taxing the rich is the solution to solving inequality. But is that really true? Will raising the taxes on rich people actually help the working class in the UK? Or is this just an intentional ploy to destabilize the economy, anger society, and give more money to the government? And when we give money to the government, we know it solves nothing because that money doesn't end up back in the pockets of the working class. The truth is this: the rich already pay a massive share of taxes. But even if we wanted them to pay more, history has shown over and over again that the extra revenue that's paid out does not go towards helping the poor. It's just wasted. But I think rather than focusing on taxing the rich and utilizing our energies on taxing the rich, I think a better discussion would be, how do we demand better government spending? How do we demand lower taxes for the working class? Hey guys, as we jump into this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Will higher taxes fix inequality, or is the real problem just government waste, government spending? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The idea that rich people don't pay taxes is false. It's not true. In actual fact, these rich people contribute the most. Sometimes Gary, maybe intentionally or maybe unintentionally, tries to put income against capital gains or income against investments, and that's not a fair comparison. But many people imply or believe that rich people don't pay income tax, and that's not true. The top 1% of earners, and that's people making over £180,000 in the UK, pay nearly 30% of all income taxes. And this is according to HMRC. The top 10% of earners in the UK pay over 60% of all income tax, even though they don't make 60% of the total income. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% contribute less than 10% of total income tax. And that makes sense. It makes complete sense because they earn less. But to run around and to suggest that rich people don't pay income tax or pay taxes is false. The thing is, income tax is just one part of the equation when it comes down to taxes. Rich people pay capital gains tax, dividend tax, stamp duty, which we can have a conversation about stamp duty because I think it's a horrendous and evil tax. Corporation tax. All these taxes hit the higher earners and business owners. Just in 2023, capital gains tax alone, a tax on the rich people, brought in over 16 billion. That's 16 billion pound that was generated. That's mainly from wealthy property owners, business owners, and investors. Corporation tax went up from 19% to 25%, meaning businesses are contributing and paying an extra 18 billion pound. And that's a tax on wealthy entrepreneurs or business owners or job creators. So if the rich are paying the majority of taxes, why isn't inequality getting better? Because more taxes doesn't equal or doesn't mean better outcome. It's just more money going to an unstable, incapable, love spending, no accountability, tax grabbing government. High earners have been paying a decent amount of tax. You could argue they should pay more. Paying more to a system that takes the money and flushes it down the toilet will not solve inequality. One of the things I would love to question Gary on is this belief that if you tax the rich, life gets easier for the working class. Let's say we increase taxes on the rich. Let's pretend for a second Gary gets his way, many people get their way, and we increase taxes. Does that mean the working class automatically get a tax cut? Of course not. Government waste is eating up tax revenue. The UK government generated around 700 billion in 2023, more than ever before. It goes up every single year, yet public services are still worse. So to imply or to suggest that if we give more money to this government, who are useless at managing money or managing the economy, if we give more money to them, public services get better. But we've seen a decline in public services. NHS waiting lists are significantly longer. Oh, if we throw more taxes into it, is it going to get better? No. The government is at the highest point of tax revenue collection, yet services are atrocious. Even if you believe in taxing the rich, you must be able to admit that you are currently fed up with the way public services are being run. Housing is unaffordable because tax revenues don't go to where they should go. If we want to talk about government waste, which is really what this conversation should be about, where is our money going? We're working harder than ever. We have no money left over. It's not because the rich have stolen your money, as implied by Gary and many. It's because your money is being spent elsewhere and being wasted elsewhere. Let's talk about the HS2 rail project. The government initially budgeted £37 billion for that project. It's gone over £100 billion. That's your tax money. And then it got scrapped halfway. Well, let's talk about the COVID loan fraud. Over £40 billion was lost to fraud and wasted schemes. That's money that could have funded schools. That's money that could have cut down waiting lists. That's money that could have hired more doctors. That's money that could have gone towards better infrastructure. That's more money that could have stayed in your pocket. Don't get me started on MP wages and expenses. Millions are spent on second homes of people that can simply jump on a train into central London to work like 99% of the population have to do. We pay for raises for politicians, yet you haven't had a raise in your work for 5-10 years. The average person is struggling, yet the government are thriving. Pay raise, increase expense allowance. So if the system is broken, giving more money to a system that's broken will not fix it. It causes more issues, as we've clearly seen, because we have incapable people who are managing our economy, therefore managing society, therefore managing how much money you see in your bank at the end of the month. Taxing the rich does not reduce the burden on the working class. So some people imply that if we tax the rich more, then the working class will pay less taxes. That's an extremely naive position, maybe a lack of understanding that the government don't just have a specific sum of taxes that they desire to raise. Their job is to collect as much as possible. Taxing the rich makes no sense because it implies that if we tax the rich, then we tax the working class less. No, the government will tax the rich, get that money, tax you, get that money, and then blow that money. There is no balance. It's not that the government need to generate 1 trillion every single year and they shut the doors and they say, well, we've got our 1 billion from somewhere, therefore we don't have to tax the working class anymore for this year. It simply doesn't work like that. The truth is the working class carry a heavy burden. Absolutely. An average worker, let's say earning £35,000, pays around 40% of their income in taxes when you take into consideration income tax, national insurance, VAT, council tax. So instead of screaming at the top of our lungs to raise taxes, why not petition the government to reduce national insurance for the average person or reduce VAT for the average person so that workers can keep more of their income or their salary? We've got to take into consideration this, and people argue against this. The rich have the option of packing up and leaving. If the rich are contributing significantly more to the tax pot and they feel highly frustrated, they will leave. And many people will say, well, let them leave. No, it's an extreme naive position to scream and shout, tax the rich, because if you're screaming and shouting, tax the rich, to pay more, to lessen the blow, to lessen the burden on the working class. So in the same breath to say, if they're going to leave, they should leave anyway, makes absolutely no sense. France tried to introduce a wealth tax. Thousands of millionaires left, jumped in their private jets and disappeared. That same policy lost the government money. So it's not as simple as tax the rich, it's where is the money going? So in 2009, the UK raised the top tax rate to 50%. We saw over 15,000 high earners leave the country. That reduces the tax revenue instead of increasing it. I understand it feels frustrating that people might be doing significantly better than you, and I understand, but taxing them more does not solve the issue in which we're trying to solve. It's a smokescreen. In fact, it's a pile of crap. The UK is losing more millionaires than almost any country because of high taxes and ever increasing bad business incentives. There is no incentive to build. There is no incentive to risk. There is no incentive to take action or implement. So I understand why a lot of people are leaving the country. If the rich leave, who does the financial tax burden fall on? That is the question we need to ask people like Gary Stevenson. Because Gary said in one of his videos some time ago,
I think the way we need to change our world is to tax the richest people in society much, much more.
and I'm a fan of Gary, I just think he's wrong. He said in one of his videos that the rich are some of the most immovable or one of the most static, that they can't just flee, they can't just leave. That is not true. The data is showing that thousands are leaving every single month. Thousands of high income earners, thousands of high tax contributors, thousands of companies that employ, thousands of business owners that employ in the UK, thousands of asset owners. So it sounds cute to say tax the rich because that narrative by itself makes people rich. I'll leave that as it is. But it sounds cute, but it's not practical. So let's come up with practical solutions as opposed to just running on a campaign that maybe boosts our profile. If taxing the rich is not the answer, which is not, then let's talk about some of the things that we can actually consider, or maybe some possible ideas and solutions? Well, let's stop government waste. Let's allocate taxes better, and let's focus on lowering the tax burden for the average worker. We need to demand more transparency on what our taxes are being used on. We need to scrap unnecessary spending like HS2. We need to have conversations about these overinflated and bloated MP salaries and government salaries. We need transparency on how our money is being used. Switzerland, for example, they have lower taxes, but their public services are better than what we have in the UK. Why? Because the money is spent significantly more efficiently. Let's reduce the tax burden on workers and small businesses. Let's do that. Let's lower national insurance for workers. Let's reduce VAT, but with a concentrated effort on things like food and utilities. Let's give small businesses tax breaks to encourage economic growth and job creation. We need to encourage wealth creation rather than punishing it. You want to punish people for doing exceptionally well. That's what makes Great Britain. The ability to come here, put your head down, and if it works out very well for you. How dare we punish people for wanting to create wealth? Because if the shoe was on the other foot, you probably wouldn't like it. Countries like the US, Singapore, Switzerland are attracting millionaires in their hundreds because they have a conducive environment and they understand that wealth creation benefits everyone. Instead of chasing away high earners, the UK need to create policies that encourage investments, that create jobs, that stimulate economic growth. Let's stop punishing success. What is the incentive? Many people complaining about tax the rich, tax the millionaires, tax the billionaires. Many of you work for some of those people. So if those people didn't start the business, where would you be? Look, Gary Stevenson believes that higher taxes on the rich solves inequality. The truth is, yes, he probably has a greater understanding. He probably has a greater understanding of the economy than I do, absolutely. But it doesn't take a blind man, it doesn't take a reasonable minded person to see the greater impact of taxing the rich and how taxing the rich has a greater and more devastating effect on the poor. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It takes a reasonable minded person to say, if we want to tax the rich, we first have to deal with government waste. We first have to hold our government accountable. We all need to know where our money is being allocated. Then we tax the rich to make sure that what we get from the rich is allocated fairly and accordingly, which then benefits the working class. But screaming and shouting tax the rich, I think it's self-serving and self-interest. Hey guys, I hope you get some value from this video. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Open for discussion. I would love to know where you stand. Do you think the UK government will actually use taxes to help the average person? Or will they just squander it like they usually do? Hey guys, if you get any value from this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below.